Round of applause for Axelle.
Thanks. So, yeah, my colleague Kyle Young unfortunately couldn't make it today, but we're both antivirus researchers at Fortinet. That means that globally we get, well, a huge bunch of malware regularly, and well, we analyze and reverse engineer the ones that are, you know, that look the more promising. And this is one of those I'm going to talk about today. It's called Zitmo. And basically, what it's doing is it's trying to empty your bank accounts. Okay? So, well, this is just what we're going to talk about. Well, just as I said, we analyze really quite a lot of malware, and there's plenty of interesting ones. So maybe you wonder why exactly I'm going to talk about Zitmo specifically and not another one. Well, there are basically two reasons that I will detail. The first one, I just said, is that it's emptying our bank accounts or trying to empty them. So, well, when it touches our wallet, you kind of get quite more interested into looking into it. I'll give the other reason a little bit further after. But let's maybe first start and try to understand what Zitmo is. Zitmo stands for ZeuS in the mobile. Something like maybe close to man in the middle attacks, things like that. Try to be a little similar. But it's attacking Symbian phones. So I know that in the US, and probably in this audience, you're more familiar with Android phones and with iPhones. But Symbian, it's really important to remind it, is still actually the market lead for mobile phones. As far as I know, even a few weeks ago, a few months ago, it was something like 40% of the market share for Symbians, and only approximately 20% for Androids and a little bit less for iPhones. It's just an approximate figures. But just to say that, really, Symbian is big, it's huge, okay? And the cyber criminals, the ones that are designing those malware, well, they know it, and that's why they are particularly targeting this platform. Then also, well, just a few minutes ago, I heard a few guys talking about mTANs and wondering what that was. So it stands for Mobile Transaction Authentication Numbers. Well, doesn't sound really that explicit. So what it is, it's a one-time password that is sent by SMS by your bank. What happens is that you've got plenty of banks now that try to kind of secure their authentication. And instead of just having to type in the login and the password on the online banking website, they also send you another password by SMS. That is the mTAN. And this is what Zitmo is intercepting. Okay? It was grabbing the SMS that holds that one-time password so that it would get also all the credentials to log in instead of you. It's a real-life example. It was really targeting, in that case, Spanish banks, a couple of Spanish banks. And the other thing that really makes it important is that it is the very first case where we see that some malware is being, that organized criminals are getting interested into mobile malware. This is the first time we acknowledge this. For instance, I'd say that since 2008, 2009, we had seen a sudden change in mobile malware, that there were more and more monetized malware. We no longer see, we haven't seen for maybe a couple of years, those kind of malware that are just there to make our lives difficult. That would, I don't know, reboot in a loop the mobile phone, that would I don't know, put schools instead of all the icons, all that kind of thing. Those are kind of old malwares, and the malware authors are not interested into that any longer. They're interested into malware that can just, well, give them some revenue. It can be, for instance, call a premium phone number. That's the kind of it. Very, very many of those happen. It can be also another thing that really happens these days is privacy-related malware. And Zitmo actually is one of those. It's stealing your SMS, so some private information on your phone, to give it to the attackers. Okay? So it's really important there because now we see that organized crimes, the difference before, well, in 2008, 2009, it was only people that were getting some revenue out of it, but it would be maybe for one or two attackers there. But it wouldn't really fit in on a large scale and give them really a very large profit. But if organized criminals start and get interested into this, and we have the proof of this because Zitmo is being propagated by the ZeuS botnet, and that botnet is really very, very large. It's been out for 1 or 2 years, and, well, you probably heard of it on the news. It's really very large. It does plenty of things. Has already attacked plenty of banks, stealing private information. It's really the kind of thing it does. So that's why we focused on Zitmo. I'll get very quick on ZeuS in itself, because I'm not really a specialist of botnet of PCs, botnet for PCs. The only thing I would like to stress is that it is not actually, ZeuS is not a botnet. It's a crimeware kit. It's something that you buy if you are an attacker and you want to design a new botnet. So you buy that kit and you configure it to say, for instance, oh, I want to target Spanish banks, okay? I want to get the phone numbers of these guys so that I can intercept their mTANs, okay? So I'm going to configure some HTML to inject into the web pages of those banks. And that's how it's done. So for Zitmo, the attackers did not have to write an entire new botnet at all. They just had to configure what already existed, ZeuS, and then propagate the mobile part of it. So this is the great big picture of what happens in this attack, Zitmo. What happens is that at the beginning, you start with an infected PC. Infected with ZeuS or ZBot. It's the same kind of name. I'm not going to cover how this PC gets infected. You just have to know that really it's really widespread. There's hundreds of thousands of PCs that are infected with ZBot. There, the victim says, "Okay, I want to go and see my bank." Types in login and password. And there, the ZBot executable that is sitting there lets it go through, goes to the bank. The bank sends back some HTML corresponding to, well, the website. And then the ZBot executable just injects some new HTML, some modifications in what is sent back by the bank. And for instance, it will say, okay, we're going to ask him for his phone number. There. It's important to see that it is HTML injection here, not phishing. So the URL on the browser seems perfectly legitimate. The victim just thinks it's he or she is on his own bank website. There's nothing that can really say something is wrong. So, well, just gets a web page telling, oh, we've got a new security measure for our mTANs or two-factor authentication method. Please enter your phone number. Again, you don't really get suspicious because you're on your bank's website. It seems pretty okay to have those mTANs. It seems pretty legitimate that they would have your phone number, so you give it in. Of course, there the phone number gets to the ZeuS gang, and they just get it into their database, and they will send you an SMS. In that SMS, they say, okay, please install this new security certificate. And they give a link. Giving a link, again, there is not either suspicious because, well, in SMS, you cannot send an executable. Okay, so you've got to send a link, so that's okay. Send a link, the persons there, the victim, will say, okay, downloading the security certificate. They have just been talking with the bank, so they're not surprised to receive an SMS saying there's something new about security. Seems pretty okay, genuine there. And that's it. They've infected their phone with Zitmo. Okay? So now, what happens there is that, well, they're done, they're owned, because whenever the attackers want to go and see their bank account, well, they can do it whenever they want. Even when you're asleep, when you're doing whatever, something else there, they can do it. What they have to do is, first, they log in. Okay, they got the login and the password on the website for the victim. They got it from the keylogger that is installed with ZBot. They got that. Pop, pop. They try to log in. It's kind of successful. Goes to the bank. The bank sends an SMS. The SMS gets to the phone's victim, but there it never rings. It never really makes it to the inbox of the victim. And the SMS is intercepted and sent back to the attackers. So what do they get? They get your SMS, the one you were supposed to be reading there. They get the one-time password. Okay, 2345, get. And they authenticate, and they are on your bank account. So that's how it's done. And they can really, what's really, I think, different there is that they can do it whenever they want. Well, we did a little bit of reverse engineering of the malware. We were kind of surprised because we thought we had already seen some stuff out of it. So we had a little bit of search. And we found out that there were really enormous striking similarities with a kind of borderline Russian application called SMS Monitor. This application is said to be for security audits, parental control, and it is it's doing exactly what Zitmo is doing. It's intercepting SMS just for different goals, kind of. So we had a check, and had to check a little bit, and we checked both kind of the string names that were in SMS Monitor and in Zitmo, and also some down to the assembly code. And we found that there were in really many cases, 90% of strings and 60% of assembly routines that were exactly the same. So that was really a striking similarity. It was so striking that we wanted to make sure it wasn't, coincidence. We had a look at other malware that was also intercepting SMS just to have a check and see if it would be similar to. And we saw that the percentage was much lower. So we kind of have the proof here that Zitmo is really related, very strongly related to SMS Monitor. So what happened is that, well, of course, either the author of Zitmo is the author of SMS Monitor. It's a possibility. We had a kind of informal chat with the guy. Well, I'm not from the police, so it's difficult to say if it is true or not, but he did not really seem related to the ZeuS gang. But what happened is that he released his code in a Russian hackers magazine. So maybe his code got stolen there and reused by somebody else. Or maybe as he is commercializing his software, maybe the software got stolen or the ID was just copied and made out Zitmo. So what's important there is that at the beginning, SMS monitor was kind of made for parental audit, and it was just kind of a borderline for kind of privacy-related things. And most people will think, oh, you know, I don't mind if my SMS are forwarded to somebody else because I've got nothing to hide in my SMS and nobody will care ever about my SMS. Well, this is wrong because, of course, in that case, if you have your banking credentials that are sent by SMS, you do care if somebody gets your SMS. Yeah?
Are you saying that surveillance tools can be used for evil?
Well, I'll get more into the reverse engineering of it. So this was kind of the end, anyway, of the philosophical part of my presentation there. Now more to the technical part. I'm going to present a little bit of the reverse engineering of all parts of the executable of Zitmo. So there are three types of actors there, three types of persons which are involved. You've got the victim. That's the person that is a mobile phone infected. Then you've got a so-called administrator. It's the way it's called in the code, so that's the way I will name it. The administrator is the person who receives all the SMS which are forwarded by Zitmo. Okay? He or she can also remote control Zitmo and change a few things on that mobile malware. And for instance, he can say, okay, monitor this phone number, or don't stop monitoring this one, those kind of things. And then you've got plenty of other people, which are the normal contacts of the victim, for instance. And then, if you look at Zitmo, so Zitmo consists of a single executable Symbian. You've got mainly two different important parts inside. One that is activated only the first time you run it, the kind of an init thing, and the other one is kind of a daemon that will actively listen to incoming SMS and process those SMS. So for the init thing, what it will do, it will set up an SQL database inside the phone this SQL database will hold all the phone numbers of the people to monitor. For instance, the phone numbers of the banks, in this case. There is also a settings file, and the settings file with kind of, set a few things for Zitmo, such as, the phone number, for instance, of the administrator, where to send back those SMS. That's in that file, in the settings file. And then, the daemon, listens to incoming SMS, processes those SMS, and decides what to do with them, to forward them or not, to process them if it's a command, those kind of stuff. So this is what we're going to detail afterwards. So this is all the examples that I am showing there are taken directly from Zitmo. It's ARM assembly code, of course, because it's on the mobile phones. This is the piece of code that silently intercepts, silently listens to incoming SMS. When you want to, on Symbian platforms, when you want to listen to incoming SMS, you basically have to open a socket and say, and specify kind of a flag saying what exactly, which kind of SMS you want to be monitoring. You can say there's a flag to say, oh, monitor all incoming SMS. But you can't use this one because this one is already used by a system application that is natively embedded on all phones. You can't use it. But there's another flag called match some text. And that is used in that case for Zitmo, which is quite interesting because it says, oh, I will only listen to SMS which are starting with a given string. Okay? But the trick there is that in the code they said, well, we're going to specify the null string for that. So we're going to listen to all incoming SMS that don't start with anything. Okay, so basically, that's how they listen to all incoming SMS. So that's a very, very neat trick. Then a little bit down, so we have now the SMS PDU in our hands, but we've got to kind of decide what we're going to do with it. So there are basically, we reversed all the logics of what Zitmo was doing with this SMS. And there are basically only 4 possibilities. First, it can be a command. If it's a command such as set admin and a phone number, it will set, for instance, the new phone number for the administrator and send all the other messages to that administrator. That's an example. It can also choose, for instance, to forward, of course, the SMS. If you've got an incoming SMS from a sender that you want to monitor, well, this SMS is going to be sent to the administrator. That's the main goal and functionality of Zitmo. But so as not to be suspicious, what they are doing also is that if the victim receives an SMS from somebody that they don't want to monitor, I don't know, a friend, whoever, somebody but not the bank, well, they are going to release the SMS and have it show on the mobile phone of the victim. So that way, well, when you're seeing your mobile phone, you see, oh, I've got an SMS. So my SMS functionalities are working. If you had been blocking everything, maybe it would have been more suspicious because you would have thought, oh, it's strange, I'm not receiving any longer any SMS. Okay? And if you get suspicious, that you might find the malware one day on your mobile phone. So that's the third possibility. And then the fourth action that may happen to that SMS is simply drop it. This happens in the case where, for instance, the malware receives an SMS, and it's kind of a command, but it's badly formatted. And so the Zitmo doesn't know how to deal with that one. And instead of having it pop up and display on the phone, which again would sound a little bit suspicious to the victim, decides just to trash it and put it away. So on the left-hand side of the slides, well, you'll have the slides afterwards. You have kind of the chart that explains in which case you fall into which of those actions there. And we will also be releasing the complete IDA-Pro database of the reverse engineering of this malware if you want to have a look into that. So now a little bit more about an action. How do we do in Symbian to release an SMS? Well, basically we have the SMS PDU, but if we want to have it display on the mobile phone, what you have to do is you have to kind of recreate that SMS on the phone. So to do that, you kind of go to the inbox entry, and then you've got to instantiate some new SMS object and fill it in. In Symbian, you've got 2 kind of objects. You've got to fill also the generic information, which is dates, and that kind of stuff. And then you've got some specific SMS-related information. So what you do there, if you want to release it, you just, we see in the code there that it's taking the current time, filling up the generic information, commit it, just to make sure to say that, well, that part of the object is done. And then a little bit later, we fill in the body, which is the specific part of the SMS. And important, we set a flag, SMS deliver, to say, oh, warning, we've got a new incoming SMS and the phone, you should display that. That's what it's saying basically. And of course, last of all, you always have to commit what you're doing to say, okay, I've done it, it's done, you can show it now. So this is, again, some assembly code taken from the Zitmo executable itself. To intercept SMS, it's basically not more difficult than releasing it. It's the same strategy. You're going to create, again, the SMS, but this time, instead of opening the end box, you're going to open the drafts box. And there, you're going to copy the body of the SMS. And as the attackers want to know from whom the SMS is coming, in that case, we're appending the real sender's phone number to the body so that they know, oh, it's coming from this bank or whatever, it's coming from this monitored phone number. Dropping an SMS, that is completely trashing it. This is the simplest thing, although to be honest, it took me quite a time to figure out how it could be done in Symbian. But actually, it's pretty simple. Basically, you don't have to do anything. Once you've got the SMS PDU, you don't do anything with it. You don't create any objects into the mobile phone entries at all. The only thing you really have to do is to say to the socket, OK, I have read the SMS PDU. Don't worry, I've processed it successfully. Because if you don't do that, of course, you're going to see the message again and again until you say that you have processed it. So that's the only thing you've got to do. And the commands. We also reversed totally the routine that was processing the commands. So this one was pretty interesting and lengthy to reverse. You've got quite a couple of commands, as you can see. You can enable or disable Zitmo remotely, that is on and off command. You can set a new phone number for the administrator, set admin. You can say that you are going to add a new phone number to monitor, add sender, or remove it, remove sender, rem sender. There's another mode where also you can say, when you're adding a phone number, basically you're adding it to the SQL database of the malware. But you can also say add sender all, which means, don't bother about what is in the SQL table, but monitor all incoming SMS. That's an option, okay? And the last bunch of commands for Zitmo are block on and block off. I think they weren't used in the case of Zitmo, but basically it could just block all incoming phone calls, not SMS, phone calls, or just have them go through if you wanted. All those can be activated remotely by SMS. And having a look at the routine that was parsing those SMS commands, the only thing we were surprised of was the way it was kind of recognizing the commands. It was counting the spaces in the SMS it was having. So for instance, if you have, say, I don't know, 0 spaces, well, it had to be either on or off. So that way, it kind of determines which command it was. It would check then afterwards, is it on? If it's not on, then it has to be off. If it's not off, then probably we have to drop it because it's not something correctly formatted. That's the way it was doing it. And then once it had recognized which command it was, well, it would deal with the SQL database, write everything into the settings file to make sure everything is in the correct status, and that would be done. It would be a processed message. So this is the reverse engineering of the settings file. It's pretty simple there. Although actually it's not the kind of format you would find on Wikipedia, so it's new stuff there. It hasn't been kind of released. The first byte of the file just says whether the Zitmo is on or off, okay, enabled or disabled. The second byte will say if we're meant to monitor only phone numbers which are specified in the SQL database or all phone numbers. Then again, byte number 2 will say if we're meant to block all incoming calls or not. And then finally, the rest of the settings file is just the phone number of the administrator. So in the example below, this is the default settings file that was shipped with the malware at the beginning. You can see that it was shipped with the trojan being disabled, so it was waiting for an SMS to be sent with the command OND to activate it. It was monitoring all phone numbers by default, accepting to receive incoming calls, and also you see the default administrator phone number. In that case, it was located in the United Kingdom, 44 extension. So that's about, let's say, the reverse engineering of the main functionalities of it. Now a little bit more of how we kind of reversed it. I don't know if you probably noticed there that in the protocol of Zitmo, there's a flaw. There's a security flaw because you can send the setadmin command even if you're not the administrator. So this is an error. So what we had the idea to do, of course, was to become the administrator instead of the administrators. So we configured another phone in our AV lab, and we became the administrator there by just sending an SMS with the setadmin command. That's one way to do it. If you hackers feel like doing it a harder way, the other way to do it, of course, is to craft the settings file and specify your phone number in there, and it will just achieve the same. And there, then we've got the screenshot of one of the SMS that was forwarded to our phone number in that case, from the other infected phone in our lab. The other part that we used quite extensively there is remote debugging of the malware. We use IDAPRO there because it supports ARM processors. And the good thing about that is that there, with that tool, we can step debug into the malware. So we can go step by step, and we can also change some values if we want. So it was quite easy, quite good, because when we were sending, we had one of our phones that was acting as the administrator, and the other one was the victim. Well, that way we could send a command and see in the charts where we were going, in which case we were going to, and it was kind of easier to understand the assembly code that way, in which exact case we were falling. And it also enabled us to pop up something that was quite unexpected. We managed to unhide something that the malware authors had carefully hidden in their code. When we had a look at the assembly code, we noticed that after each action, when they were writing in the settings file, they were also writing some status information to a text editor, a window on the mobile phone. But the victim would never see that window because, of course, they had specified that it would be hidden and put into background even for better security. So what we did, just to have a look at it and for the kind of beauty of it, is that we put a breakpoint while we were remote debugging on the function that hides it. So it's set hidden there. And whenever it hits that breakpoint, we would change it to, oh no, don't hide it, leave it visible. Same, we would put a breakpoint on the set ordinal position, and we would say, whenever we hit that breakpoint, just bring it foreground. And that's how we saw the window on the left-hand side there, which is actually printing the contents of the SQL database and the status, the current status of the Zitmo executable. So, well, it's time to conclude about it. Zitmo. So the last few words I should say about it is that it was really, really very difficult to spot. I think that even for people who are security aware, there are not so many symptoms to see and to spot and to see that there's something wrong on the mobile phone. The only thing that's we're a little bit suspicious is that the security, the alleged, of course, security certificate that was sent to the victim was sent as a Symbian package and not with the normal extension for certificates, P12 or PFX. That was one thing. The other symptom is that if you had a look at all the applications listed on your phone, you would see that there was a new unknown application. But you know, well, you're probably not checking every 10 minutes if you've got a new application there, so it's not really very easy to spot it. And even worse, well, the Zitmo was successfully signed by Symbian. It underwent their express signed program. So when you install it, you saw the application and it was said, oh, signed by Symbian. So, well, it's not the first time, this is not anything really new, because it's not the first time malware managed to abuse kind of App Store things. Last year, there was another malware on Symbian called IXES. I talked about at another conference, and that one was also abusing express signed without any problem. There's plenty of those. But still, it gives the end user perhaps a false sense of security in that case. So, well, of course, there would be really quite a lot of space for adding new security to mobile phones, and it's really, it would really be useful. I kind of bumped into plenty of nice solutions by other researchers that would perhaps help for security of mobile phones. So maybe it would be time to kind of try those security solutions at a larger scale and see how well they behave in front of really real situations. Some of those were based on behavior analysis for your mobile phone. Kind of, for instance, if you're used to sending, I don't know, 1 or 2 or maybe 10 SMS per day, if suddenly you send 100, well, your phone could say something and say, oh, there's something a bit strange, just check it perhaps, because something is not really as it should be. That's maybe one of those. The other thing that I saw also was kind of another initiative to signing, well, capabilities. Symbian is like Android on that part. When an application wants to do something a bit specific, it has to request for the permission to do that. That's what they call the capabilities there. But those capabilities, of course, are kind of a bit maybe limited. Sometimes it would be helpful to be able to combine them, and that would be better for security. I'll give an example. You've got a capability that you've got to set if you want to read the phone book on the phone. You've got another capability if you want to connect to internet. If you have, you're downloading an application, and that application says, I want to read your phone book, and that's all, it might be okay. It's just internally having a look at your phone book. It's never going anywhere. Maybe you want to accept that one. But if you combine that with connect to internet, well, of course, you have the potentiality, it's possible that that application is going to send your phone book by internet, and maybe you don't want that. So that's an idea of saying, well, we don't want the combination of read phone book and connect to internet. That's not possible, the current status in Symbian. And finally, also, the other things that I wanted to say about two-factor authentication is that even if Zitmo is actually defeating two-factor authentication in that kind of way, I don't believe that two-factor authentication is bad. What was bad here is that we were relying as a second security measure on an insecure device, which is the mobile phone. But if you use two-factor authentication on something that you find out and that is more secure, it should work. should be better that way. So what we would need is something with a keypad, something on which you cannot install any applications, so you can't install any malware either. Well, you need, of course, some way also to communicate with the bank. Well, I haven't thought of it really much more than that. Maybe you can discuss about it yourselves, but maybe a smart card reader could do the trick there. Yeah.
What about the RSA?
The RSA?
The little RSA files.
Oh, the RSA tokens. Yeah. So the question was, what about those? What happens is that actually, in the first version of ZBot executables, they were already defeating those secure ID tokens. Because as you happen to know, in this new version with Zitmo, what happens is that we can defeat two-factor authentication on the demand. But before that, we could already defeat two-factor authentication because when you received the SMS with the one-time password, whatever happened is that you would enter it on your laptop or on your desktop. And there was a keylogger there. So anyway, the ZeuS gang was able to get that second authentication form there. So with secure IDs, you get, if I'm right, you get another a random number there. You read that random number, and you're going to type it on the laptop. So what ZBot would have done is it would have eavesdropped that number and got that number there again. So it's not really solving it because the problem is that on the secure token, you cannot enter the password on the token itself. You have to enter it on the PC. So, well, that's all. If you've got any other questions. Yeah, go on.
Do you expect to see Zitmo-like malware show up on Android or iPhone platforms, and if not, why not?
So the question was, yeah, if we expect to see Zitmo on other platforms, Android or iPhone. Yeah, I think so. There's no reason it should not happen. As you're maybe aware, there was late December quite an interesting malware called Genemy on Android. It's kind of a botnet. It's basic, but basic botnet there. What happens is that, to our understanding, cyber criminals are interested in money. So if there are more and more people using iPhones and Androids, they are going to attack more of those platforms. Really has to, it will happen that way.
So you think the Symbian was targeted because mTANs are used in parts of Europe, mobile phones are used for sending mTANs to SMS in Europe, so therefore that's why you saw it in Europe on Symbian. For market share, and that's what the opportunity is.
So do you think that, did I think that this one was more because it was targeted on Symbian, because Symbian was more used in those countries, in Europe and in Asia? Yes, probably. I think it was used on Symbian because Symbian is the first, the first on the market. So it is effectively probably the first market share in Europe, where you've got plenty of banks with the mTANs. I don't know about the status in Asia, but I know that Symbian is very present in Asia too. Yeah, so the process of having an application signed, it's not very complicated. You go onto the Symbian website, you kind of create an account. You're going to have to pay something, I think it's 20, I'm not sure about it. By memory, it's either 20 or 10 euros per signature per application. And you kind of send them your executable, and they're going to sign it. But before that, you've got also to buy also a certificate from Trust Center, and that costs 200 euros. So, I mean, you can't do it every day, but it's perfectly not very expensive for an organized criminalization. And then, well, they get really loads of application fillings there. So what happens is that they are not screening all the applications. It's impossible, really. They can't do it, and it would be really too difficult. So they just pick up randomly a few applications. In the case of Zitmo, we had a discussion with them, and they really told us honestly that at first they had not investigated that application. Of course, when Zitmo after that broke out in the news, they had a look at it and helped find who was there, revoke the certificates and all that kind of stuff. But it's a little bit too late, of course. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Do you know if the mobile providers are doing anything to detect commands that are being sent and the data that's being exfiltrated?
So if the operators are tracing what are sent by the mTANs, or who are sending them, you mean?
What if they're doing anything to detect the kind of behavior that would be associated with this from the multiple devices that would be receiving the commands and then sending the mTANs back?
Yeah. My understanding is that operators don't do much at all about what is being sent on their networks. They are neither tracking them. Well, in that case, they help to black out the number in the United Kingdom to make sure that that phone number would no longer receive the intercepted SMS. But they only did that because this was really a major issue. I mean, there was really dollars into account, but they would not do it normally. Am I answering your question correctly, actually?
You are.
Okay. Yeah? Okay, so about the on-demand factor is that the first time to get the login and the password, yes, they have to wait for the victim to log in and to get the login and the password. But that's only once. After that, they have that in their database. And then for all the other times, they don't have to wait for the victim to log in. They can just log in instead of the victim. So I would expect, for instance, that if they are trying to get into the bank account of somebody in Spain, but they are in Asia or something like that with different time zones, it would be quite easy for them to do it while it's daytime for them and don't have to wait that this or that victim is actively trying to access his or her bank account. So I think that can be really useful for them. They can script it afterwards also. That's another possibility. So that it will, take a few dollars every day out of the bank account, or it opens plenty of possibilities, I think. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, the remark there is about RSA tokens would be superior regarding to that, because you would not have that on-demand possibility to log in. It's true, yes. For that thing, it would be superior. The only thing is that it's not solving the two-factor authentication problem, but at least you can't do it on demand. Right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of it. Okay, to send oneself the victim sending an SMS to his own infected phone, and see that way if you're infected. Well, that's interesting, I'm thinking. I'd have to check. I don't know. Do we have time? Okay. It's on the charts there. I'm checking if this is possible because the setAdmin command, for instance, you can only send it from a phone number which is not monitored. But I think, yes, this would probably work. I'd have to check it again. Although I'm not sure how you could be able to use it to really see if you're infected or not. You could probably disable it. You could see if your phone is responding to that. But I mean, if you're already to the point where you have suspicions that that executable is there, it's much easier to go and list the processes on your phone and see that you have, in that case, Nokia updates.exe. That was the name of the fake executable there. If it's running there, you can already see that there's something wrong, and you can check a few other files such as the settings.dat, which is the settings file, or the presence of the SQL table. It would be easier than sending an SMS to oneself, I think. Well, thanks.